and we probably wouldn't have to ask for anything else. So we have 1,000 of these donation canisters placed throughout the county.
What kind of places have them?
And that's another thing that has happened. We're just totally humbled by the generosity of the merchants, retailers, dry cleaners, movie theaters, workout gyms, hair salons, plumbing companies, chambers of commerce. It's been amazing that they've said sure. And the campaign runs through February 15th. We have a few corporate sponsors, Gold Coast Broadcasting being one of them.
Yes.
They are airing on their stations a public service announcement. They're doing interviews with either our volunteers or our staff, or the Ventura County Fire Department is endorsing us, as well as the city fire departments. Because what they say, which it says on the canister, we're able to focus on the fires because we know Red Cross will be there for the families. And that's something else, Richard, that a lot of people might not know, that when someone calls 911, that goes to the fire department.
Yes.
Then they call the American Red Cross. We're the second call that's made, and oftentimes we will arrive in conjunction with the fire department, or in a few instances beforehand. And we're there to help not only the firefighters, but to help the family. So we give them, we say, blankets and hugs. We give packages to help them with, that has the toiletries and the basic essentials. We give a stuffed animal if there's little ones involved. We oftentimes will provide them with temporary housing, sometimes a voucher card to help them get some clothes on their back so they can start the next day with dignity. And that's why the fire department is endorsing us, because they say, we get to do what we do because you're taking care of what you take care of. And because you can imagine the emotions that are involved with that if somebody wants to go see if their cat is still in the building or not, the fire department has to deal with that unless we're there to help finesse that too. And oftentimes, I don't know why it happens, it's in the middle of the night.
Yeah, it's always in the middle of the night. I was affiliated with the American Red Cross, and I really saw firsthand the families that needed something. You know, a house fire happens. I remember being called out to a house in Oxnard. They were doing their laundry, and the lint trap backed up on them, and it caught fire, and the house burned up. Unfortunately, they bravely, and I think maybe they were a little stupid to do this, but the men actually pulled out many of their belongings and threw them out the windows as the fire advanced through the house, and which of course I would not recommend anyone to do. But they were able to save some of their things, and they were completely just confused and frightened, and they didn't know what to do. Fortunately, I had a whole staff of people with me. I got the honor of handing out teddy bears, which I guess is the best job I could have,
yes,
especially to the little children who were, of course, mentally really shattered by this trauma that had hit their families. But we got them back on their feet, and everything went along pretty good, and they managed to save many of their belongings, which I think was a blessing. But with Christmas coming here, are there a lot more fires caused by Christmas trees and ornaments and lights and stuff like that?
That's always an issue because people don't necessarily pay attention, that they overload their circuits, or they leave lights on that they wouldn't ordinarily leave, and they leave the house or they go to sleep. If the Christmas trees are dry and they still have lights on it, that can be an issue too. But what we found this past year, 2009, is that because of the economics, there have been higher density living situations because people are trying to save. So there's more hazards because there's more people with less resources, including using alternative methods for heat, like butane, and that's created fires that it's just unsafe.
I imagine you have people cramped in small areas, several families living in a dwelling at the same time. That could cause, just magnify the problems that you have. So you've noticed there are more calls now because of this?
Yes. And then to that end, those families that we did service and that were affected, every one of those children at the holiday time was given a gift. And that was just another way of us tagging back to them to say, we're sorry about your loss, and we didn't want that to impact your holiday season. And that's been I think just an amazing follow-through that we've been able to do, because we keep track of our clients and we make sure that their adjustment has been handled.
Well, I noticed that when I was affiliated with Red Cross, that many of the people who were volunteers and the most dedicated, when you talked with them, they had been helped by Red Cross sometime in the past. I know one elderly couple growing up in Ojai, their house had burned to the ground, and Red Cross had been there for them. And they're giving back. Each one of the volunteers has their own stories. A little storybook could be written just on how they were brought into this great organization and continues to do the work to make our county safer and to give people a little a heads up.
I had a story, a man called to say he wanted to donate his car because we will take cars and then they get auctioned off or whatever and we get the proceeds. And I said, thank you so much for thinking of us. And he said, hey, you were there for me. It's the least I can do. And I said, what happened? He said, my home burned down. I'll never forget it. I will be indebted the rest of my life. So when I have an opportunity to give, I do. And that's the genesis of it. I think because we're in the fabric of the community and have been there and we're proud to be there, people don't know that we're not a government agency. People don't know that we don't get subsidy from national headquarters. And that's what this is all about. So when you see these canisters, this is the reason why. Now, what we've also created is a website special to the campaign. And by the way, this is a tri-county campaign. It's Ventura, Santa Barbara, and San Luis Obispo counties. But when you donate to the chapter, that money stays with that county.
So it isn't just spread out over...
No, we're not going to divvy it up in 3 or anything. So we're working together because we felt that there was power in numbers and that we're collaborating as chapters with the brain trust of who's best at what. So we set up a website and it's $5 savesalife.org. And you can go to there and you can also click and donate online. And then we've created a little incentivizing, if you will, because if you give $15 up to $24, you get a safety tube. If you give from $25 to $49, you get a fanny pack first aid kit. If you give $50 to $99, you get a family first aid kit. And then if you give $100 or more, you get, and it's my favorite thing, and I don't know if you have it or not, Richard, but I buy them as gifts for my family and friends. It's a battery operated and or crank radio, flashlight, and cell phone charger. So if you think about it, you don't need a battery, and if there's an emergency, you have illumination, you have a radio to hear what's going on, and you have an ability to charge your cell phone.
That's something that people don't forget about. I mean, if the electricity goes out, your TV set's not going to work.
Right.
Your computer's not going to work. Your maybe your cell phone will work, but only for a short time until it needs recharging. Your radio won't work unless you have a battery-operated radio or a hand-cranked one. You should definitely have one of those, because how will you get instructions to evacuate?
Exactly.
How will you even know what's happening? You're just left, quite literally, in the dark.
Yes.
So I have a radio and batteries. I even have all kinds of different flashlights so as to find our way out if we get lost or if there's an earthquake. I always keep a flashlight right next to my bed.
I do the same.
Another good thing I've always told people, I guess you teach it as well, keep an old pair of shoes under your bed. Because if there's an earthquake, what's going to fall over? Your mirror.
Right.
And it'll break into glass. So you jump out of bed into the broken glass and cut your feet up. You don't want to end up doing like that movie Die Hard, where the guy runs through the glass. You want to have a pair of shoes.
Right.
Just doing that can keep you from becoming a victim.
Well, and that's the whole message of preparedness. It's thinking things out, letting everybody know, whether it be at work or at home, who's going to go where, who's going to do what, who's going to meet where. That's why it's my favorite gift. I gave that to my mother for Mother's Day this year, and it's not very romantic or sentimental, but it's so practical that how could you not? So that I love to tout that. But the other thing that we have as a chapter is a beautiful health and safety store where you can go and you can browse, and it's good holiday gift giving, it's birthday gift giving, but it has all. We even have an earthquake survival kit that's for 2 people for like 4 days or something. That's already in a backpack, so it's ready to go.
got everything that you need.
Mm-hmm.
I know that